StegoHome in the Valley of the Sun, collaborating with Marc LaLiberte, homebuilder consultant and co-principal of construction instruction, on their Desert Comfort Experience Home, a net-zero custom dwelling in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's meant to teach building science from the foundation up.
And what we're doing here is demonstrating how we can build beautiful and comfortable, safe, and healthy buildings in the desert.
And at the pre-slab phase, a chance for StegoHome and Southwest Regional Manager Dennis Keene to demonstrate no matter how dry the climate, even when building a home in the desert, a building envelope needs below-slab vapor protection.
In commercial buildings, below-slab vapor barriers have been used consistently for the last 25 years.
Correct.
What has been the hesitation in the home building market as to why they're not using below-slab vapor barriers?
That's another great question. I think what we see is that the challenge of putting down the poly is the perception. That putting it down is difficult. But when we look at the life of the building, 100 plus years, it's an insignificant contribution to doing so. But I think almost every application I can think of, putting plastic down underneath concrete slabs in direct contact with soil is critical, and it's essential to the longevity and health and durability of our buildings.
Here's why. In any climate, from the desert to the rainforest, a water table exists somewhere below the foundation. Water vapor is always going to move from that high concentration environment to lower concentration through the process of diffusion. And concrete, despite its durability, is porous and won't stop that water vapor from invading the building envelope on its own.
We know that all the soils, even up here in the desert, has a lot of moisture in it. And what we want to do is to manage moisture at all levels. We flash the outsides, the windows, and the roof. But many times we forget about the slab and the overall amount of surface area that's connected directly to the soils. Some people landscape and put irrigation outside, which means it's drawn towards the concrete slab. You can wick water in concrete well in excess of hundreds of feet. And so because that's important, we want to make sure we isolate the connection between the soil and the slab. So a 15 mil vapor barrier, which is what this StegoHome product is, prevents the opportunity for any of that moisture in the soil, however it gets there.
And not 6 mil poly, a material that lacks effective vapor permeance to protect against water vapor diffusion, and isn't durable enough to withstand installation or avoid deteriorating beneath the concrete slab over time. And the long-term effective water vapor protection of StegoHome Vapor Barrier is especially important when installing flooring systems.
You might as well do something to protect that flooring once it goes down.
Exactly. I think if you're going to do that investment in the flooring, you'd want to say, by the way, builder, I want to make sure that we're putting Stego down underneath the concrete in direct contact with the soil. So you want to do this once, and you want to do it right. So if we're going to put $20 a square foot easily into the cost of the flooring, that becomes a very important investment when the cost is basically, in some cases, pennies to put the details down right. So as I mentioned earlier, the type of adhesives and the way in which these products bond, we don't want moisture coming from a source like a slab and the ground up through and challenging the way they bond, the way they connect, maybe expand and contract. I want to keep them as static as they possibly can be, and that makes a big impact.
Part of the misconception out there is to build a healthy, sustainable home, it's more expensive. Can you speak to that a little bit? Is it more expensive? If so, how much more expensive? And is it enough to make a homeowner say, you know what, I don't want to write that check for the additional protection?
Correct. Yeah, and I think that the cost is always the pushback, right? When in the absence of value, we don't understand anything other than cost. But the ideas of energy efficiency are about health. They're about durability. They're about making sure that the efficiency of the house is how I pay to heat and cool it. So what's critical about this stage is that we know that the cost of energy savings nowadays with the escalation of fuel prices and it continually rising is easily paying for itself just in efficiency of the building itself. So if we have a healthier indoor environment, we have lower energy costs. That really represents an immediate and demonstrable payback that we can see on a monthly basis. So I think the cost actually is not only neutral, but I believe it's small and lower.
Better materials, more sustainable construction, healthier home.
I think if the building industry looked at the risk of not putting it down and realizing how difficult it is to, lift up the slab, Dennis, and slide it underneath later, not an option. So I think that those things are relative in terms of improving it for the life of the building. You can't do this later. You've only got one shot at this.